Canada is facing critical challenges with some major make or break projects on the horizon, which could greatly impact the future of our economy. Right now, the numbers aren't looking good. We need to start rebuilding the foundations of our economy, shifting focus away from real estate and towards our natural resources. As a real estate agent, my name is Kevin Baldwin and I work for eXp Realty. I can tell you that while real estate is important, it's not enough to drive sustainable economic growth. In today's video, we're going to dive into a massive project and its potential missed opportunities. We'll also look at other projects that could reshape Canada's future. Let's jump into it. Canada is the world's fourth largest oil producer, with 98% of crude oil being shipped to the US. However, a $733 million pipeline expansion is changing that, as it brings Canadian oil to new international buyers for the first time. This project is a game changer for the industry, but not without controversy. Critics argue that investing in stalling oil industry might hold Canada back economically. At the same time, this could be a blow to American refineries who have long benefited from cheaper Canadian oil. This Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, which is astronomically over budget, could be the key to Canada's global ambitions and influence the energy market. The oil and gas industry currently represents about 5% of Canada's GDP. It is one of the few sectors experiencing growth. It raises a valid question. Why does Canada continue to ship most of its oil to the US for refining? From a logistics standpoint, it would make more sense to build more refineries in Canada. The relationship with the US is complicated. This Alberta oil sands produce millions of barrels of oil daily, yet most of it heads south across the border, mainly to the Midwest rather to the global markets. For a long time, this worked well, as the US had a demand for energy. Almost all Canada's oil exports go to the US, and this oil makes up 60% of its imports. The reliance has pushed down Canadian crude oils for years. Most of the world's increasing demand for oil is coming from Asia, and Canada has long wanted to tap into those markets. The problem, Alberta is in the middle of the country, far from both coasts. The original Trans Mountain Pipeline, built in 1953, was the only one moving oil from Alberta to West Coast. Now, with this expansion, there's a hope for change. Here's where it gets complicated. Other major oil producing countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia are producing significantly more oil than Canada. This raises the question why Canada hasn't taken advantage of this opportunity, especially energy demand spikes in 2014 and again in 2022. Canada has emerged potentially with rich natural resources beyond oil, such as wheat, food, and minerals. However, many of these opportunities have been left on the sidelines. In 2013, energy company Kinder Morgan filed an application to expand capacity, which was initially estimated to cost around $4 billion. But the project faced years of delays due to opposition from the environmental and indigenous groups, as well as skyrocketing costs. In 2018, the Canadian government stepped in, buying the pipeline to see the project through. The goal: open up exports to new markets in Japan and China and India by shipping more oil to the West Coast. The project was reactivated on old pipelines, building new storage tanks and expanding shipping berths, tripling its capacity to ship nearly 900,000 barrels of oil per day. But the cost ballooned to a staggering $25 billion. The government has been criticized for setting taxpayers' money on fire, with some questioning whether such massive expenditures are justified. If taxpayers' money is going to be spent, it should be on infrastructure that benefits Canada, rather than being squandered abroad. Private companies often back away from projects deeming too risky, leaving the government to take over, as was the case of this pipeline expansion. And while it promised a boost in revenue, it's important to ask over how long a period we see returns on this investment. Estimates suggest it will generate $34.5 billion in tax revenue, but over how many years? Despite the high cost, the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is crucial for Canada's strategic interests. After 12 years of development and construction, it finally opened at 70% capacity in May. However, it remains to be seen whether project gains will materialize. The expectation of higher oil prices hinged on the belief that the pipeline would be low cost, but with construction costs skyrocketing, those expectations are in question. Canada's growing oil sector has long been constrained by limited export infrastructure, and this expansion is to alleviate that, with 600,000 barrels of increased capacity per day. Oil producers are now able to ship their product directly to the international markets, including China and India. However, this shift has hurt American refiners, who had easy access to discounted Canadian oil for years. Better oil prices and more customers outside the US could also give Canada more geopolitical clout. Access to the global market allows Canada to have a say in the global energy markets. But Canada is not yet an economic powerhouse, largely due to its missed opportunity. Since 2014, stronger leadership could have positioned us as a major resource player on the global stage, but instead, much potential has gone untapped. As the world moves towards clean energy, long-term prospects of oil industry are uncertain. Many critics warn that the oil pipelines could become obsolete as demand for oil declines. However, even with the clean energy transition, projections show that the oil demand will continue to grow by the end of the decade, especially in developing countries. Despite efforts to phase it out, the world is currently using more coal than ever. Oil and gas may follow a similar path, remaining vital to the global economy for years to come. Canada stands at a critical junction where bold decisions today will define our future. Will we seize the opportunities in front of us, or will we let them slip away? The future of our energy sector and perhaps our entire economy depends on the choices we make right now. If you found this breakthrough insightful, please leave a comment and put your thoughts in there.